Is FIRE really possible? This is something a lot of people are talking about these days. With the pandemic that just happened, with the shutdown, with everyone going home and having more independence, they are all beginning to question, is it really worth it to go back to that job that I was miserable at and be a slave to my boss for the next 20 years? Everyone's looking at how can I retire earlier? And that brings up the question, is it realistic? Well, I will say that yes, it is realistic. We're going to talk about how today, but I want to talk about some of the unexpected disinformation that seems to exist out there, which makes this seem very unrealistic for a lot of people. So first, I made a video recently about the types of FIRE that exist, whether it be lean, traditional, fat, obese, coasting, barista, all of those different versions. If you are interested in any of these other types of FIRE retirement, please take a look at my other video that goes into detail on each of them. For now, let's talk about what most other YouTubers who supposedly are retired really are. Really, most of those people are partially retired, semi-retired. They're doing the barista FIRE. The basic idea is they saved up a certain amount of money and they thought they were retired. And yet then they started a YouTube channel. They have a training course. They have blogs. They have other sources of income that they're currently living on. That means to me that they're not fully retired. Their full FIRE number may have been too low, but they're able to supplement that income by doing some other method, by living the barista FIRE lifestyle where you have semi-retirement with a part-time job. So don't let that confuse you. Don't think that you can retire on as little as they claim to, because it might not be realistic for you. Now, in terms of finding out what is realistic for you, you have to come up with your FIRE number. I've spoken about this previously. Basically, you take the amount of money it costs to live your life, not just your base expenses, but the amount that it actually costs you to live. All of your luxuries, all of your entertainment, everything you do on a regular basis needs to go into this number. That's going to help you determine how much money you need to live on any given year. Once you have that, you multiply it by 25 and you have your traditional FIRE number that you need to reach and invest in order to have 4% to live on. Now, a couple of things I will warn you on when coming up with this number are that you need to think about how your lifestyle is going to differ in retirement. For example, I have had Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, a bunch of different companies over the years that had plans that were through my employer. My employer paid for a large portion of those, and I would then pay the difference. So, for example, I could have paid $100 a month for insurance, but the actual insurance was costing $600 or $700 a month, and my employer was footing the bill for the rest. So when you are retired, especially with early retirement, that is going to be a huge sticker shock number that you need to be aware of. I'll go over this in a future video where we actually log on to the government ACA website, also known as Obamacare, and we can look to see exactly what it costs for healthcare right now. And not only that, but what it costs for good healthcare. You can get one of those budget plans that won't cover anything, and when you go to the doctor, you'll find out they're outside of your plan. That does no one any good. You want to get a plan that actually covers what you need. So take that into consideration and adjust your FIRE number accordingly based upon accurate numbers you've been able to research. Now, beyond that, you're not going to be at a job 40 hours a week anymore. What are you going to do with that time? Are you just going to sit around and watch soap operas all day long? You're going to play video games all day long? Even if that is what you want to do, those video games will probably cost you some money to buy. If you want to travel, that's going to cost. Going and starting out new hobbies, trying new things, experiencing new things that you never had an opportunity to do because you were too busy with working 40 hours a week during your normal work life, you're going to have time to do that now. So if you do, you want to make sure you have enough money to go enjoy retirement. Ensure all of those things are included in your budget so you have an accurate budget. If you like this video, please like or subscribe as it'll really help my channel grow. Now, one of the biggest fears everyone has about early retirement is you are not of the age yet of getting Medicare or receiving Social Security. You have got to fund this entire retirement all by yourself. Healthcare, living expenses, everything based upon what you have saved. With that in mind, it is a very good idea to have a backup plan. What if you fail? Now, there are several things to take into consideration here. Number one, maybe you don't fully retire anyways. You do the barista FIRE lifestyle. You have a little bit of money coming in. By doing that, by maybe exploring some easier career, some more enjoyable career that you had never done before. As an example, the YouTubers I was talking about earlier, that's what they're doing. They are going and exploring a hobby that they have been able to turn into an income generating hobby. And then they take their FIRE money, add that to it, and suddenly they have enough. But what if that didn't work? What if you tried it, you desperately wanted to be a YouTube star, and you had 5 views? And I have several videos like that from years ago. But if that is you, then you want to think about, what is my true backup plan? If I get 3 years into this, 5 years into this, and I realize I am burning money faster than I'm earning it, this isn't going to work. You have to have a plan. Now, maybe that plan is cutting expenses. Maybe it is going back to work. If that's your plan, definitely think about what that means. If you've been out of the workforce for 5 years, who's going to hire you? Are you going to be able to hop right back into the position you were in before? Probably not. It's fine. Don't let this scare you away. It's just something to think about. You need to know what your backup plan is before you begin. So with all of that out of the way, knowing that there are different types of FIRE, knowing that you have your number, you know what your budget needs to be, you know what your FIRE number needs to be, you know what your backup plan is and whether you're going to be doing a barista FIRE, let's talk about where to go from here and whether this is actually realistic. Okay, so assuming you have come up with these numbers and you know what your FIRE number is, how realistic that is in order to retire early is dependent upon where you are now and what that final number is and how you plan to get there. The easiest way I can come up with to talk about this is to actually use an example of money. Right now, you could invest up to $19,500 per year in a 401k. You could also, if you are within the income brackets, invest another $6,000 a year into an IRA. So in theory, you could invest up to $25,500, not including an employer matching contribution, every single year. If you were to invest that every single year, and you were to get a 7% return on your investment, it would take you 19 years to reach $1 million. If your FIRE number is higher than that, that's going to be a surprise. 19 years is a long time. If you need more money than that, you're going to have to do something more than the maximum government allowed savings plans. And now those are just for the tax advantaged accounts. You can also save money on the side. You can put it into stocks, into rentals, into other investments. It does not have to be the government sponsored plans. However, those are great options that you should take full advantage of if you can. Knowing that those options, using them to their fullest extent, would take you 19 years to get to $1 million if you are one single person. Now, what if you're a married couple? If both of you are doing that same thing, each of you are contributing $25,500, which adds up to $51,000 per year. If you were contributing that, it would take you 12 and a half years to reach $1 million. Now, in theory, if you think about it, if you have 2 people, one person could live on $1 million, maybe 2 people needs $2 million. So maybe it still takes you the full 19 years. However, if you manage to find a way to make that happen, dual incomes make it easier to get to a high FIRE number. The reason why I point these numbers out is when you're trying to determine, is this realistic? Can I do this? You must actually put pen to paper and determine, is it possible with the math I have available? Do I have enough money? Can I save enough money? And can I have that money earn me enough to reach the end goal? The answer is yes. It's just a matter of time. If you were to double that amount of money, if you had a single person and they were doing $51,000 a year, maybe it was $25,500 in some of the tax-advantaged government accounts and $25,500 into rentals every single year. That's $51,000 somebody has to save. Do you make enough money to put away $51,000 each year easily? I don't know. That would be a struggle. But if you could, then you yourself could reach that $1 million in 12 and a half years. If you were a couple and you put your money together, you could reach that in 12 and a half years for $1 million per person, $2 million. Maybe that is a more realistic number. So it requires quite a bit of saving in order to do this. This FIRE lifestyle is not for everyone. But also, I was talking about a 12 and a half and a 19-year time frame. Well, what if you start working when you're 20, you start contributing something, and you want to retire by the time you're 50? That's a 30-year time frame. That is still well before when most people are going to retire. If you consider the average government retirement age being around the age of 65, and you manage to retire at 50, which as a matter of fact is my plan, then you are 15 years ahead of anyone else. You have reached your peak financial earning potential in your career. You are still young enough to go and explore and experience all of the things the world has to offer, and that gives you a prime period in your 50s to go do all of these things. So it is early enough for me to really enjoy life and get a lot out of retirement, but late enough for me to be able to hopefully achieve a F.I.R.E type lifestyle once I get there. Now, with all of this said, I've talked about what retiring early is, how to come up with those numbers, the importance of making sure those numbers are accurate, and the importance of making sure you include a bunch of additional retirement expenses in those numbers. It should be a little more clear to you how difficult this is to do. It's not easy. It requires saving a large portion of your income. Yes, it is possible with some sacrifices. Once you have all of that laid out in front of you, if you still want to retire early and the numbers aren't working, look into some kind of partial or semi-retirement. This could be a barista FIREment method. It could be reaching your coasting FIRE number and then go working a job that doesn't require that much effort, doesn't require that much skill, or maybe it requires a lot of skill but not much effort. And since you had gained that skill over the years, you were able to use that to get yourself a high level of pay for very little work. There are lots of ways to look at this, but the goal is supplement your income with a part-time job. Retire early, travel, enjoy your life, but do something to make sure that that lifestyle continues to be sustainable. Now, a few ideas to get you moving on this concept of a partial retirement or some way of making additional income in retirement. You could start a YouTube channel. You could do a part-time job. You could rent out a room in your house if you have extra available. You could become an Uber driver, do some kind of deliveries, possibly find a part-time job that offers health insurance, not necessarily for the income that it's providing you, but for the health insurance it's providing you that may be cheaper or better than what you might be able to get on the ACA. You could write a book. For a lot of people, their bucket lists include writing a book. It's a major accomplishment. It takes a lot of effort. I have written one myself, which I have a link to in the description below, and it was a bucket list item for me. I did not care necessarily if it made me a bunch of money. What I cared about was the fact that I stuck with it, worked hard, and eventually achieved that goal. If that ever ends up making me any money, which it hasn't yet, if it does, that is something that could potentially provide me some partial income in retirement. As I've said, there are lots of ways that you could potentially make money if you need to in order to supplement your retirement income, and these are options that you should be looking into in order to make FIRE a realistic goal for you. That's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the box down below. And please be sure to click that notification bell icon to get notified whenever I post new videos. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.